Hello. So good morning, everyone. I would like, it's a privilege to talk to you today. So can we move to the next slide, please? Right. So we'll straight away go to the competition details. So this competition, we call it as ICT quiz. So this competition consists of 3 rounds, and the top 8 teams will be selected for the final stage, and it will be on stage, right? And then the eligibility criteria would be this quiz competition is open for secondary students from grade 10 to grade 13, and each school must finalize one team of 3 members at the initial level of the competition. So that would be the eligibility criteria, and the team size, as I mentioned, it is you have to have 3 members for one group, right? And then the syllabus would be indicating ICT A-level syllabus as well as ICT general knowledge. Can I move to the next slide, please? Right. So the rules and regulation is, as I mentioned earlier, you have to have one team per school, and then the maximum number of members for that team should be 3 members. And when you are getting questions, when you are referring it in online context, you can discuss the answers with your friends and to finalize the answers, right? So there will be a winner as well as 2 runner-ups, and we will be finalizing the winner, and then we will be informing you about the winner and the 2 runner-ups if you are selecting for the second stage and the third stage as well, right? Moving on to the next slide, please. So we have 3 stages: round 1, round 2, and round 3. The next slide will be indicating you about the details. So the initial round, we are planning to have it on 2nd of October 2020. And then the selection process would be all schools which has been participated by registering a team is eligible for this selection process. And the evaluation criteria is, we are going to give you a quiz, an online quiz, that is a 30 minutes quiz with 20 questions, right? So then when you are conducting this kind of an exam online, you should have the necessary equipments, necessary facilities when you are participating in a test in online manner. So that is the special requirement in the initial round. And moving on to the next slide, it is about the second round. So second round is on 5th of November, that is close to the finals. So we have the selection process been identified as a team who score more than 75% will be selected to the second round. And then again, we are going to give an online quiz, but it is on campus quiz, right? So you are not going to do it at home. You are going to come to SLIIT premises and then do the online quiz. That is also 30 minutes quiz, and you will have 30 questions there, right? So we'll move on to the next stage, that is the third round. The third round is on 6th of November, that is our final date of our competition. And then the selection process would be, we are going to select 8 teams from all the selections from the second round, and then we will give a quiz which is on stage, and it will be a face-to-face quiz. You will be asking questions. There will be a quiz master available, and then the quiz master will ask questions from your team, and then you have to answer it by ringing a buzzer, right? And that is the special requirement is, we are going to conduct it in campus environment. So that's the end of our presentation related to the competition.
Yeah. So good morning, students. So let me warmly welcome all of you to the first CodeFest webinar that we are having. So we are all excited to see so many students and also teachers participating. So as we have announced, we will have a series of workshops covering initially 3 topics, and this is the first one. So, so this tool that I'm going to talk to you about is something called MIT AppInventor. But before I get into that, let me just ask you a simple question like, is there anyone among you who has not used a mobile phone? I don't think so, right? That was really a, just a silly question to ask, because I don't think we can find anyone who has not used a mobile phone. But what if I tell you that in today's session, I will teach you how to develop an application, a mobile app on an Android device. Would you like to learn? I'm sure most of you are here because you like coding. And in the CodeFest competition, we have we have 2 main competitions for students. We have the coding competition, and then we have the quiz competition that Ms. Sanjeevi talked about. I'm sure you would love to develop your own apps, because I think you like to use apps, you play games and all kind of things. But if you can develop your own apps, so that is what we are going to do today. So students, I think naturally, and also like teachers, you might think that this is very hard, like, developing Android apps is very hard. And it's not something that school kids can do. That might be your initial thinking, but that is far away from the truth. So actually the environment that we will use, MIT AppInventor, is actually meant for small children, like, for kids from a very small age to develop Android applications, and you can develop fairly sophisticated applications. And that's what we will do today. So the question that you might have is like, is this something very difficult to do? So I think that might be a concern that you have. Now, students, I think I know some of you have learned Scratch at home, at school. So, you have a way of, in your school syllabus, you have, you can actually, you actually learn about Scratch. And then what if you can actually develop Android applications the same way that you develop Scratch applications? And essentially that is what MIT AppInventor does. So students, without spending too much time, let me go into this. So this is the agenda that I have. So MIT AppInventor is like a Scratch-like programming environment. So it's like Scratch, but the difference is you're not going to develop web-based applications. You can actually develop applications that you can deploy on your mobile phones, on your smartphones, but technically it will be Android phones, right? So so we will actually look at this. So so this is a very simple intro, and I would really love if we could have done this as an interactive session, but there are certain difficulties in doing this as an interactive session. So that's the reason we are doing it in a way that I will actually do the demos, but at the end of the session, I think you will be empowered and you will be able to try out your own programs. So you don't need to have any kind of knowledge. You don't need to have, even basic programming skills. You don't need to have to use MIT AppInventor. So if you listen carefully, students, like for this particular session, you can get up to speed and you can develop your own mobile apps. And the nice thing is, like, it's great if you can have an Android phone with you, because if you have an Android phone with you, you can actually develop the app on the computer and deploy it to your phone almost instantly. But even if you don't have an Android phone, that is fine. There is an emulator. So you can set up the emulator, and then you can run the code that you're developing. And when you get hold of an Android device, it can be a tab, it can be a mobile phone. So in fact, like, all the phones that are there in the world are categorized into 2 types. Like, you have the iPhones from Apple, and all other phones like from Samsung, or Huawei. All those things are belong to Android phone category. So they run basically the Android operating system. So the ones that we develop here can be deployed to any phone or tab that runs Android, right? So all you need to have to develop applications using MIT AppInventor is, like, you just need to have a computer with internet connection, right? You don't even need to have a phone. So students, like, let me kind of show you a little bit about what this environment looks like. And then I will go into showing you how we can use this environment. So this is so this is actually the environment that we will use. So let me see if I can actually, so let me show you how to get here. So if you want to start MIT AppInventor, you just Google this. Just type MIT AppInventor. Just go to Google and then type it. And then you will see a link, and you can go into that. And when you come to this environment, there are a lot of material available. So this is the actual environment that we will use for this. And how you start the IDE is like you say create apps, right? So I will show you some of these things as we go along. So you would select the create apps option, and then you come to the environment where you can develop code. So students, like what I will do is like initially I will show you some sample apps that I have already developed, so that you get a feeling of how you can write some simple programs. Of course, in this 1 hour session, I can't show you how to develop very sophisticated solutions, but we'll do some simple problems. But I will show you how you can extend your knowledge and then develop something really sophisticated. So this is a very simple application where I have a button here, and I have a couple of screens. Like so this is the first screen. So when I click the next button, I want to go to the second screen. And when I click the that button over there, I want to go to the third screen. So maybe like you have some interesting UIs and you want to navigate between those screens. So let me show you how this app looks like. So I have actually deployed this. This is my emulator. So you can actually see this app. I'm not sure. So this is actually the, so when I click on this, you should see this. It might actually take some time. Okay, yeah. So you can see like it's changing the screen. So when I click next, it should go to the next screen. So there is a slight delay. Yeah, so you can see this app is actually working, right? So one of the things that I wanted to show you is like, let me come out of this. So you have this, this is the place where we design the UI, and this is where you write code. If you see this code part, this is exactly like Scratch. I will explain this, students, but I just want to show you like, this is how you write code. It's like, if you're familiar with Scratch, that's how you do it. So let me show you a couple of more projects, very simple ones. I have here a calculator program. So in this one, students, like I just want to write a very simple program where I'm going to enter the length, width, and depth. And then this is for a, let's say, some kind of a rectangular, like something like a brick or something where you have a box kind of thing where you have length, width, and depth. So I want to calculate the volume of this. So it will be like length into width into depth, right? So now the nice thing about this environment is like the moment you write the code, you can see it running. This is the runtime environment. And students, you'll be amazed, like if you actually set your real phone will also be updated automatically. So let me run. So this application is now running. So let's say I have a length of 20, width of 10, and a depth of 5. So I just want to show you how easy it is to develop. I just want to show you some demos, and I will show you how to develop them. So when you click on the calc button, you can see that it actually calculates the volume of this one, right? And if you really look at the code for this, it's really just one line of code. So if you have seen Scratch, you might get a feeling of like, okay, this is not that hard to do, right? It's only that kind of code that you have to do. I'll just show you a couple of more slightly interesting ones. So for example, there is this app here, and this is the code for that. It actually is drawing a line, and the screen is just a blank screen. And so that, let's see what that single line of code does. So what it does is, it's really a drawing program. So I can use the mouse and then I can actually draw this, right? So this is a very simple one. So imagine you want to develop your own paint program. You can have buttons to change the color, but this is only drawing lines. And the way it is coded, so this is a very simple paint kind of app that is there, right? So, or maybe like you like games maybe, right? So maybe like you want to develop a game. So I'll show you a very simple game that I have already created. This is the coding. So in this coding, you can see it's not very complicated. I'll explain what this code does. So in this game, I have 2 balls. And basically, like I want to kind of, it's called fling them, and then they will start moving. and they will move around the screen, right? But you can see like to do this, like there's only a few lines of code. It's not very complicated. And so so the beauty of this is like you can actually demo the app. And as I said, students, like if you set it up with your actual Android phone, it will automatically come up. So its application development is so fast. Actually, it's much faster than actual real Android development. So those of you who develop real Android apps will know like it takes a lot of time to compile the code and then run it on your mobile app. But this is a very fast environment. So in this one, what you do is you can actually flick these balls. So you can see them moving. I think this one is moving. You can see that one is moving. For some reason, I think the code for this is not working. But the point is like I can, flick this, and then I can. The idea is like I can actually control both of these, but maybe like the code has changed slightly. So you can see it's bouncing off, and you can move it in any direction. So you can easily come up with a very interesting game kind of environment. So, okay, students, let's go back to theory. So please ask questions, and if Anne or someone can tell me if there is some pressing question, I can answer them. So please send questions to the chat window if you have any, and the organizers will let me know if you have any specific question, right? Okay, now let's see how to develop an application. So when you want to develop an application, we have to use this designer view. So, like in a mobile app, the main part is the UI. So let's actually develop the UI part of an app. So let's actually go to this, and I'm going to create a new project. So you can say start a new project. We'll say workshop 1. By the way, you don't need anything. It's just something that runs on the cloud, right? So you can give a name for this. So it starts with a blank one. And students, this is actually what we call the designer view. There is also the coding view. Blocks is the coding view. So first of all, what we do is like when you want to develop a mobile app, you have to design the UI. And the most important components, these are the different components that you can attach. So you have buttons, like say, for example, I can add a button to the screen, right? Maybe I can add a label, right? So this is a label. I could add, so all of these things you can drag and drop. So let's say I can drag and drop this text box, right? Maybe I can put an image. So I'll put an image over here, right? And then if it's an image, I have to actually, put an image for that. So I can upload it from my computer. I think I have a few images that I just copied in the morning. So let's try one of these. Yeah, let's try that one. It might be not an ideal image, but let's okay. So, and then, yeah, so I'd say okay there. And I have to, so it's a fairly large image, so I can actually set the width for that. So I'll say like fill the parent or something like that. Or maybe like I can say fill the, yeah, that should be fine, I think. And also maybe I can say scale picture to fit. So, so this is actually the CodeFest website. It's actually a very large image, right? That's why it's not coming out properly, but you can get the idea, right? That you can insert an image. And the beauty of this is like you can create your UI like this. And if you go to your application, it should actually appear. So let me go to the app. This is my emulator. You can see it has everything that the designer has. So I think the CodeFest website comes out nicely here as an image. So you can see these things. But students, now the next thing that you will see is like now I have actually inserted text boxes. This is a button, then a text box and some labels and an image. But then you will not want this to be labeled like this. So we have to change these things. So what happens is when you work with this environment, so let's say if I select this text box, so maybe I want to say click, I want to type the text click here. So students, like here, for each of these components, there is this thing called the properties window. Now, each of these things that we dragged from here, from this particular user interface, when you drag it to the mobile UI, you also see them as here. So I have an image, text box, label, and button. So you can select them either by clicking on the UI or on this components window. So I want to change this text to click. So what I can do is either I can click here or I can click here. And then these are what we call properties, right? These are properties of the button and I can change them. So for example, if you go under this, I can change the font size. So let's say I want to make the button very large. So I can say 30. Right? So that's a very large button, right? Maybe I want to change the font. So I want to use a different type of font. So normally you will not use this, but then I just want to show you that you can do that. Maybe you want to change the shape, like you want to have an oval kind of button, right? But normal buttons are not like that, so I will say default. Then this is where you can change the text. Now I want to say click here. So I'll say, I'll go there and then change this. So students, you can change the properties of any of these things. You can see it changed to click, and I will change the shape to, let's say, rectangle. This is the normal one, right? So I can maybe like say here, like maybe like enter your name or something. So maybe like I can say here, so this is a label. So I can put the text for the label, like you can say enter your name, right? I hope that answers the, yeah.
And he's again asking in the Android app, he's asking a QR or a QR code or a code. So I guess he's trying from his phone.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good question. So let me let me kind of clarify how you can connect. There are in fact 4 ways of connecting. So let me go to the screen. Yeah, so these are the 4 ways of connecting to your device. So one way is, I think probably the student is trying this approach. You need to have a phone which has Wi-Fi enabled, and there is actually an app that you need to download. So there is a AI connection app that you need to download on your Android phone, and then you can actually use the QR code. So you need to install a piece of software here, right? On your Android phone, and then you can remotely connect wirelessly, and it is then only you have to use a QR code. So when you use that kind of remote connection, that's how you do it. Now, the way that I'm doing it is I'm using an emulator. So let me show you the different options and how you can do it. But I think it's difficult for you to do it right now. That's why students, like, we are not doing it interactively, because doing the setup will take a bit of time, even for an expert. So when I go under create app, I think it probably, no, it goes there directly, right? No. So it really has to do with this. So you can use this AI companion, and if you go under AI companion, it will actually, ask you to set up things. And if you really want to know how to do the connection, I think it's over here. Let me, yeah. So there is this thing. So if you go under this first one, getting started, students, you can try this later. Go under setup instructions, and then these instructions are given to you, right? You need to, there is this app. It's called the AppInventor Companion app. You have to install it on your Android phone. This is why, students, we are not doing an interactive session, because you will take time to do this. But I can tell you, I can assure you, it's very simple process, right? You just set up this app, and then as the student mentioned, like, there'll be a QR code that will come. And then using this option, I think the student is trying this option, then you can directly get your app running on your mobile phone. It's easy as that. You just need to install this one, and it's there in the slide in the website. What I am using is an emulator. If you want to use the emulator, what you have to do is you have to install it. Like I'll show you the instructions since someone is asking this. This is something that you can do if you don't have an Android phone. So depending on your operating system, you can install this. So even if you have a Mac, I have a Mac computer, but Windows, even if you have Linux, you can go to this and then set up this. This is actually not for the coding part. This is actually for running your program. Like, to run your program, you need to have either an Android phone or an emulator. Emulator means like it's a piece of software that runs like an Android phone, like what I have here. So this one here is an emulator. So this is actually like a real phone, but it's not the real thing, right? So you can see I can, so it's called an Android emulator. So I have settings, and I can do all kinds of things with this, like a real phone, right? That's because I don't have an Android phone with me, and it's difficult for me to show one in this session. I hope that answers the question. And then if there are any other questions, please ask me. Okay, right. So let's get back to the coding part. Yeah, so we were here. Okay, so yeah, so we were trying to change this one to enter your name. So this is basically using properties, right? So students, like, whatever you drag and drop, you can just change that So we are asking, so basically, let me remove this image because it looks a bit distracting, or let that image be. So we have, for example, like enter your name, and then you can type your, basically how did I change this? Let me show you in case you didn't see it. So this is a button. So I can say, let me change it to press me, right? I want to say, instead of click, press me. So what I do is like, I can come here and then change any of these things. I can change the text color. For example, I'll show you, let's say I want to use red color for the text. You can see that changing. And the font you can change from here. So I use default font. Yeah.
So someone is asking, how do you produce 3D rendered objects in this app?
Yeah, so one of the things that you can do is like you have a browser component. So let me actually set it up and then show you. Sorry about that.
Okay, so thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. So keep the interesting questions coming up. There is no direct way of running 3D content from here, but you have a web view, right? So you can actually embed a web browser, and if you can use some components which in your web browser that is compatible to have 3D models, you can use it. So students, although like this is Android development, like you don't have full access to everything that you can do in normal Android development. But answering your question, if someone asks me how to do a 3D kind of modeling in Android, what I could do is like using Android Studio, using MIT AppInventor, use this web view. Web view is actually a browser. And then if you can figure out a way of enabling your 3D content in a web browser, then you have the solution there, right? So that's how you would do that. So, so let me change this to press me so that you know how to change it. So changing properties is very easy. So I just changed that. And then I'll just now run this program. So I have not done any coding. Yeah, so I think I have a little problem because I had two windows. Let me, when this happens, students, like I have to refresh my connection. So I'll say, I'll run the emulator, or yeah, let me say companion screen. It might be faster, I think.
And
yeah. Are there any other questions? Yeah. So if you lose your connection with your emulator or phone, like there's this thing, you can go under that connection option and then select. In my case, I'm selecting emulator because it lost the connection between the development environment and the mobile phone that I'm using. Students, like let's have a look at this one so I mean, if you have a question, please ask me. That earlier question is not very clear. So like now here I have just basically I'm running this one. I have pressed me, then enter your name, and then there is the CodeFest image. Now I can type a name here, like let me say I'm Nuan, but then nothing happens, right? I click something, nothing happens because I have not written any code. So this is really a functioning app, but then there's nothing happening here because there's no code that I have written. So maybe like when I click my name, maybe I want that to appear in a different location. Like maybe just below that, I want the name to appear like saying hello and then the name for that to come, right? So if that's what I want, what I can do is like, let's say I want to have a label. So after you type this, it's going to display, hello, and then it's going to display the name. So let me use a different font for this. So you just drag and drop the components, the UI components. So I'll change the font to a large one. So let's say 40 font, and then you can change all these things. So let's say it's blue. And so I want to just display the name, right? Whatever you type here, I want to display it over here. That's what I want to do. So it will not happen automatically. I think you understand that, students, right? So if I just, for example, if I type my name again and then click this, nothing will happen. That's because I have to write code for that. Now, how do you write code in this environment? Well, you go under blocks, right? You go under blocks and then you can write code. And now I want to write code, and the way that we write code in a GUI kind of development environment is called this event-driven programming approach. So let me kind of explain how this works. So I'll go to the slide deck and then go to that. So, so I think you have this idea, but events. So basically, students, like when you want to develop an application using a graphical user interface, like mobile applications, Windows applications, web applications, the most common programming approach is to use what we call event-driven programming. Now, if you have done programming at school and you have used something like Pascal or non-graphical environment, you would have written very long pieces of code. But in event-driven programming, we write small snippets of code for different events that can happen. Now, events can be, now in the real world, events can be anything that happens in the real world. Like, for example, me speaking and you listening is an event, or someone opening a door is an event. The sound of someone, a car horning is also an event in the real world. But now in the computer screen or in a mobile app, the events can be like someone clicking a button, someone trying to draw something using the finger, right? Then someone clicking on an image. Like clicking means like touching an image in the case of a mobile app. Those are like events, and we can write small pieces of code for those events. So let me show you how you can do that for this environment. So, so basically this is the problem that I'm looking at. So I want to write some code when this user presses this button. When you click the press me button, it should write some, I want to write some code. The code is, I want to change the content of this label to the text that the user types here in the text box 1. So by the way, these controls have names. This text box 1 is this one where I'm typing the name. Label 2 is this blue colored one. Label 1 is this enter your name. You can change these names. You can see students like you can change the names, but if it is for a very small program, you don't need to do that. But if you're writing a very large program, maybe you want to give more meaningful names for these. But for this today's exercise, I will not change the names, but if you want to change names, you can, the names of these components, these are called components, you can do it here. So let me go to the coding part. So I want to write some code for the button. So these are events. So for example, I can write some code when the button is clicked or when the button is gets focus, right? So this is an event. So events are shown in that color. So I'll just select that. Similarly, other things will also have events. Like for a text box, it can be get focus, lost focus. Image, it can be click. For a label, you can select the component and see what is available, right? Usually events are given in this yellowish kind of grayish kind of color, like it's like dark orange color, right? It's brownish really. So that is the color that is used for events. So you can use any event. So I have actually written this. So when the button 1 is clicked, I can do anything that I want to in this one. So what I really want to do is like, I want to change text, this label here, which is actually called label 2. I want to change label 2, this text, to the content of the what I type here. So what I can do is like, I will select the label 2. That's where my destination is. So here you can see different kind of commands, and you will notice there are commands like this. Some commands start with set. Some commands just have a little block like this, right? So I'll explain the difference. So like if you take this one, this is actually to change the text. I'm saying set label to text to some value that I give here. So this is called a set command. Like I'm changing the property. So what I want to do is I want to say, okay, label 2. I can, if you have used Scratch, this environment. So I want to change label 2. What do I want to change it to? I want to change it to whatever that is there in text box 1. So in text box 1, there are many things that you have in text box 1, right? Let me actually, you can even change it from here. So I want to change the, I want to retrieve, this is to retrieve text box 1's text, right? So basically, this is the command that I have to give. You can drag and drop and then do this. So what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, label 2 text should be equal to text box 1.text. So I hope you can understand. So I'm saying, okay, set label 2 the text property. What is the text property? Well, text property is like what you see here. This is the text property. You can change any of these things. If you want to change this in the designer view, when you're in the designer view, you can just directly change it. But if you want to change it in coding, this is how you do it. We can say, okay, change label 2. You can change any other things as well. I can programmatically change the background color, font color, various other things I can change. But here I want to change the text. And what I'm trying to change is like, I want to get the from text box 1. Once again, there are many things that I can get. But what I'm interested in is what the user types, right? So I hope you can understand this, students. And that's basically the code. Now, if I go to my app, so the app is automatically running. Now, if I type my name again, so let me retype it. And now if I click this, you can see now it reacts. So whatever name that I type, so let's say, so if I type MIT AppInventor something, and then click this. So you can see it actually, does that, right? So I hope you can understand that. And if there are any questions, please ask.
Sir, we are having questions.
Yeah.
So the one who asked about the slide transition and all that, he's asking like how to know about the drop-down list and how to go to each page in the app when there are few screens. That's the thing he's asking.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a good question. So let's say that I have now, if you want to have multiple screens in your application, so this application has only one screen, right? So if you want to add multiple screens, you can go under add screen, and then you can give a name for the screen. So that is screen 2. So screen 2 is an empty screen in this case, right? So I have screen 2, which is an empty screen. So I can add, so let's say I want to add 3 screens, right? So each of these screens are separate. So you can from here select the screens that you want to work with. And so let's say I want to, maybe from this screen, I want to go there from using some kind of a drop-down list. Let's see what is the drop-down command I can use. So probably I can use a list pick viewer. Let's see if I can actually use that. Yeah, and then here I can select the items that, yeah. Yeah, so this one is actually a list picker. Yeah, it's probably like we need to use a list for this. So let me actually take a simple example, right? So just to show you how we can, let me delete this one. Yeah, so let's actually have a button, right? We'll use a button, and then that will be the easiest way to do this. So let's say there's a button called screen 2. This is the text for that, right? You can give any name. So let's say screen 2 display or something like whatever you put will come there. So when I click this button, I want to go to the second screen. So in the second screen, maybe I have a way of, let's have a image there so that you can see it. So I'll quickly select an image. We already have an image here, but I'll select something else. Yeah, let's try one of these. I think probably these might be okay, I guess. Yeah, let's try one of that. Yeah, so this is, I think, one of the sample screens that I used. So you can actually say fill parent and then make it fill the screen. And you can also fit this. Yeah, so anyway, so we have this one. And then maybe like now what I want to do is like when from screen 1. So let's say if I take screen 1, when I click on this, I want to go to the second screen. So the code that I have to write is this. So that is the second button. So when you click the second button, so each one has different events, right? So if you take button 2, so when button 2, actually I have to use the click event. So I use the click event. So for the button 2 click event, what I'm going to do is like, you can give commands from under the control thing. So under control, you can have, so if you have done if commands, repetition commands, those things are available here. So I'm not going to spend too much time on these because I think if you know Scratch, you can pick them up because the focus is not to talk a lot about general programming because that will take time. So I hope you can figure out how to do these things. And if not, like you can come for our Scratch sessions, we will teach you how to use the control structures. So like the for commands, all those things are available here. But then answering your question, this is the command that we have to use to open another screen. So we can say open another screen. And then what I have to do is I have to pass a text here. So you can actually do math operations here. So text operations are given here. So basically I have to give the name of the screen. So the screen name is screen 2, right? So I have to just say, okay, I want to change to screen 2. This means like when button 2 is clicked, move to screen 2. Screen 2 is this one. Yeah, this is the one that we want to go to. So let's actually look at the, run the code and see. So I'll go to my app window and then, so when I, so this one is, it's working as before. So I'll just put Sam or something, and then I click this. You can see the name is coming. So if I click on this button, this is button 2. It will go, but I think it takes a little bit of time. So you can see that, right? That's how you move between screens, right? So
Okay, I
answering
guess
your,
he got the point, sir.
yeah,
So
okay.
thank you, sir. So
Yeah.
we are having another question.
Yeah.
Is there a way to make the app interact with already existing apps on the phone? For example, open camera, browser,
Yeah.
music, etc.
Yes. So actually, you'll be really amazed about what you can do with this. So these user interfaces are the graphical ones that you can do. Then let me also show you a few things logically, because I think otherwise like we'll miss out on some of the important things. So I'll come to that. But then I will show you one more point before I touch that question. So for example, like when you want to, let's say you want to create a calculation kind of thing. So maybe like you have a label here, and then you want to have a text box, right? So you want to have a set of components like this, but you'll notice that it's difficult for you to get these things in one line. So if you can't get these things in one line, what you do is you can use a layout. So that's what you can use. So there are different types of layouts. So that is the second one. So other than user interfaces, like if you come down, you can see layouts. So you can use either horizontal arrangement. So if you use horizontal arrangement and then have it here, it means you can put components horizontally. Like say, for example, I can have a label here, and then next to that, I can put a text box, because otherwise it comes down, right? Default arrangement is vertical. Sorry. So I think I had to put it right there, I think. Yeah, so that might be a little bit hard. That's one way. The other way is like if you really have a lot of things to enter, it might actually be easy for you to use a table arrangement, right? So table arrangement, what happens is like it's easier. Like let's say you have, you want to have 2 columns and then let's say 4 rows, right? So it's like a little table. So then what happens is like you can easily put components in a nice way. Like say, for example, I can have a label here. In the first box, you can put a label. Then in the second one, you can put the text box. So you just put it here, just next to this. So it will come out nicely, right? So this is how you create your UI in a nice kind of way. So maybe like this is going to be a time picker where you can pick the time, right? So most of the components that you have are there. So I hope you get the picture on how do you control the UI, like the control of the UI. It's better if you can use the horizontal layout. I think it's more scalable for different screen sizes, but this is another way in which you can do that. So you have date pickers as well there, and then you can change any of these things. Yeah, so that's actually about layout. And then students answering what you said, you can, you have access to the camera, right? You can directly use your camera. Basically, these are components that you don't, they are not visual components, they are coding components. So you can do very interesting things like, for example, you can have your camera and then you can write some code. When you click a button, it will take a photo, right? Or you can play music. This is to play just audio kind of, sorry, this is actually to play a video, I think. So that is something that you can do. You can play audio sounds if you use this component, right? You just drag them and they are available here and you can write code. You can also do things like text to speech, right? So for example, that might be something cool. Like say, for example, if you take the text to speech, now all of these things you have to write code. Let me show you how you write code. So let's say you want to, maybe like in screen 3, this is all in screen 3. So let's put up something interesting in screen 3. Screen 3 already has this. So let's say that I want to, so this one is called text box 1. In text box 1, I want to, speak that person's name, right? So I could actually use camera, like, okay, what kind of operations can you do with the camera? You just click here. These are the commands that you can do. Call camera, take picture. So these purple ones are commands that you can give. Each of these components have commands. So if you put this, like say, for example, this is how you can use the camera. So let's say that I have a button here. So okay, I don't have a button. Let me put a button. So let's put a button in this one. So I want to take a photo. Then this button is clicked, right? So I'll say the button is like, we'll say cheese or something, right? And then it should take the photo, right? So so I want to write code for this. This is actually called button 1. So what I do is like I go under the blocks. remember students, like the way that you think is like you write code for an event. So you want to write code when the student clicks this button. When the student clicks the button, you want to write some code. So what you do is go to the button component. This is under blocks. And then you look for the event. Now, normally for a button, the typical event is the click event. Now, what do you want to do when the button is clicked? You want to take a photo. Then you go to the camera component and look at the commands available. You can see like here it says call camera, and then that code should work. If this was a real phone that I had, when you click that button, it will take a camera. It will take a photo. Similarly, like there are a lot of other things that you can do. Like if you want to play some audio sounds, you can set up the audio sound. How you set up the audio sound is basically you can come here and then you can upload your audio sound here. So I will not do that, but that's how you do that. And then this is this other thing that I told you about, like you can use very interesting components like text to speech. So if you use text to speech, you can see the commands like here. You can actually use these commands. It will call the text to speech component, and you have to give the message, right? So for this message, I'm going to put whatever the user types in text box 1. So I want to get the text value of that. So students, like when you look at retrieving values, I will show you a slide because like now you might be confused. Why is this one light green and then you have a dark green one with the word set? Then there's another light green one, dark green one. Let me show you what those things mean. So I'll come back to this. So when you, so when you actually want to access values, right? When you want to access values, students, we use, you select the component. And if you want to change the value of text box 1, we use a set command. Set commands are used to change the value of something. So you can change the value of label 1, label 2, label 3, label 3, all of these things you can change. Just select the component and then you say, okay, this is the command that you have to use, like set text box. You can change this one. You can change the font, you can change the color. But if you want to change something, you use a set operation. If you want to retrieve what is available, then you use this other one. It's called a get operation. Technically, that's what it's called. But the point is, students, like each one will have a get and a set. Set is used to change the value. Get is used to retrieve a value. You can look at these blocks and then figure it out. So when you want to retrieve something, we use the light colored green one. When you want to change a value, we use the dark green one, right? So now in this one, what I want to do is like, I want to take the value in text box 1. Now text box 1 has a text value. So if you go down, you can find it, this one. I want to not change it, I want to retrieve it. So I'm using the light green one, right? So it should technically, display this, say this name. I'm not sure whether you will be able to hear this. Let me see if I can actually, I'll share my computer audio as well. Just to see, I'm not sure whether it's going to work out. I never tried this before. So technically it should actually speak what I have said here. So if I say, hello students, right? And then this is the button I had to click.
Hello students.
I don't know whether you saw that. So it's now trying to take the photo, right? So I think I can, so it's taking the photo or something like that, right? I think this is the photo button, I think, yeah. So this is an emulator, so you don't really see it, right? Did you all hear the sound, hello students, like it's saying? I'm not sure whether you heard it.
No, so I guess they don't hear.
Yeah, that's okay. So that was something that I wanted to show you. And since some of you were asking, let me actually see whether I can go from here. You all can still see my screen, right? Yeah. So also, like since we are talking about various things that you can do, there are pretty cool stuff that you can do with this. So for example, like media I showed you. Then you have drawing and animation. This is where you actually, if you want to create a computer game, you will use the canvas. Canvas is what you use for drawing. And you can use maps. If you want to use like Google Maps and things like that, it's actually using a different kind of map. I think it's called OpenStreet. So you can use map-based interfaces. So you can actually zoom into a map and then do navigation. So your application can have navigation, map-based things. And this is the most coolest stuff. Like, in a phone, you want to do stuff like with your sensors, right? So like say, for example, let's say you want to develop an app so that when someone shakes your phone, it should call someone. It's very easy for you to do that. If you want to do that, it's just very straightforward. So let's say you can use the accelerometer. All these are sensors. So if you you can use the emulator and also use these things, but these are things that you can try out. Like you have a accelerometers, like when you want to figure out like if your phone is shaking, and then so those are good for games as well. There's a barcode scanner. Light sensor is like when the lighting environment changes. You can even do payment kind of things, and near field is something similar to this. So if you have the necessary sensors in your phone, you have access to them. So if this speedometer is like how many steps you walk. So like let's say you want to develop a walking app, and your phone has support for that. So then you can develop an app so that you know how many steps a person walks. That's actually this speedometer sensor, right? So all of these things, if you want to use, for example, the accelerometer, what you do is you just drag and drop this. So these don't have a UI, but if you go to the coding section, you can actually use them. So for example, this is the accelerometer. So for the accelerometer, you can check like if it's shaking. So if someone shakes your phone, what do you want to do? It's your imagination, right? The beauty of this kind of environment is like you can do anything that you imagine. So imagine what you want to do when someone shakes a phone. Maybe you want to take a call. Maybe you are developing an app for an elderly person. So when the phone is falling or something, then you want to give an alert or something, right? So you can think of many scenarios, and the way that you give a call is, so I think there is a component for that. Let me see if I can quickly find it. It's not the phone. I may not be able to very quickly find it. Layout.
And so apart from that, someone is asking how to make a game on this AppInventor.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So this is actually where you can get the, so under social, you have, you can actually send emails, you can text, you can send Twitter messages. So this is the other one. You can actually take calls. So from your application, you can take calls. So once you kind of add that, what you can do is like you can go to this environment, and then this is the what we call the phone call thing. So so by the way, students, like there are events as well. What you want to do, like when there is an incoming call. So maybe you want to develop an app, like when you have an incoming call, you want to do something, right? I mean, it's your imagination. Like when your app is running, it can do anything you want it to do. Or when the call is ended, what do you want to do? Now, this is the command to give a call, right? So if you want to give a call, this is the command for that. But then you might be wondering like which number to call. So then there is a way in which you can set that. You can say set phone number to this one, right? So like say if you want to call someone specific, you can get this value from a text box or something. And then when you make this call, and so this is the idea is like when someone is shaking, it will give a call, right? Shaking the phone, if that makes any sense, right? It's your imagination really. So, okay, so one of you was asking like how to create a game. So I will show you a few things that you can do. So let's go to that part. Let me just reduce this view. Yeah, so let me actually go to an existing project that I have done, so it's easy. Let me show you, let's try this, this game that I have. So this is actually 2 balls. Now you can get this component by going under, it's probably under drawing and animation. Yeah, so under drawing and animation, you have this ball component. So this is a specific kind of thing. You can change this image, I think. Yeah, so no, you can't change that. So what happens is like, so there is this thing that you do, like, like if you have played games like Angry Bird, like there's this operation called flinging. So this flinging operation, or it's called flung, right? So when you select the ball, so these are the operation, these are the actual events. A ball can collide with another ball. A ball can be dragged, like you can maybe drag it on the screen. It can reach an edge of the screen. Flung means like if you have played Angry Birds, like you fling the the ball, right? So that flinging action is captured here, flung. So here what we are doing is like when you fling something for the ball 1, you are actually moving it in a particular direction. So I think it was not working because I had actually accidentally removed that. So probably, yeah, so that's right. So so this is actually for ball 1. So when you fling this, it actually moves this by a certain amount. So it actually, heading is the direction in which it's so for example, like if I move the mouse in this direction, heading is that direction, like whatever the angle in which I'm doing it. I can actually move the thing down or up. That direction is called heading. So you can see that we are getting the heading. So by the way, like when you use certain events, you have variables, right? These are the variables that you have. And then when you have a variable, I can actually pick them up. So like, let's say if I click on, if I want to get the speed, for example, if I click here, you should be able to get the speed or set the speed, right? So when you have let me take a different example then show you. So for example, if you take the canvas, so canvas is the drawing area, right? So these are like variables that you have, like the starting point, ending point. So if you want to use this in a calculation, like this is the starting point, so then you can use the get operation to retrieve the value, set operation to change the value, right? So the current while location, current x. So these are like parameters that you have. So if you're familiar with functions, these are like parameters that you have, and you can change those things. So so answering your question, like you can do this. And also like students, like since we are also kind of coming to the end, I have some links. I will show you some of the links also, and then maybe like I will show you a few more things before we stop. So the last thing that I want to show is like there are some fantastic tutorials. So like if you go to AppInventor itself, you have some good ones. So let me go to the AppInventor itself and show you what is available. So you have some getting started tutorials. So these beginners tutorials are there, and you have all kind of things, right? This is the one where you can insert an image and play a sound. Then you have something where you use text to speech. The second one is about using text to speech. This is the ball bouncing thing that I showed you about. There is also a video for that. Now, if I go under this is basically like that example that I showed you. No, that's probably not what I should have done. Yeah, this is the other one. Yes. Let me quickly go to that. So I'm saying getting started, beginners tutorials, and then we are looking at bounce the ball. So if you kind of look at that, there is a PDF here. If you go under the PDF document, it will actually tell you the steps that you have to do. It's all the steps are there, students. So like how to insert the balls, the canvas, then the 2 balls that I showed you. So basically what I showed you was a demo. So this is like a very simple game, right? And how to use these operations, right? The fling, the flung operation. So these tutorials you can kind of go through and then follow. So basically, this is one approach where you can try out things, and there are more advanced tutorials as well. So if I show you a few other links that are there, you have, I mean, you can go under resources and also see the main tutorials. So there are a lot of tutorials available. Like now, if you are worried about databases, I'll show you how to do that. Like say each time you run your app, the previous data will be removed from the memory. So how do you kind of store, like say if you're developing a game, like you want to have the highest scorers, how do you do that? How do you have a cloud-based database, or you want to have a on-phone database? It's not very difficult to do that. So then this is like using the location sensor. If you want to try out something, so like this one actually shows you like how to use the location sensor. So you can actually get the current GPS location and the direction in which you are moving, right? And then you can develop a fairly sophisticated app. So you can get the longitude, latitude. That's like the coordinates in the map. So you can do very sophisticated things. So there are tutorials here. This is another one that I have provided a link. So this is a very fun one, like if you are a beginner to go through this. So once again, like you have all kinds of applications from the very simple, smallest one. So like the setup AppInventor is like if you are really stuck with how to connect to your real phone. if you don't know how to connect to your real phone, you can follow the steps that are given here. There are various kinds of projects that you can, so this is actually playing a video, for example. So you can actually see there are a lot of different sections in this. You can develop a web-based app, quizzes, like let's say you want to develop an educational app where you have quizzes, right? So here's a demo of that one. So I think one of you asked like how to have list boxes and then how to iterate through those. So once again, like each one of these things, if you go to, like, it will have a very detailed set of instructions for you to explore. Another one that I have is, like, I think there's this Study Tonight is also an interesting website that, so if you go through, I think if you go under the Learn section, so you can see the different sections that you have, right? Here, Shake to Call, this was the example that I told you about. Like if you check the phone, it will give you a call, auto SMS kind of thing. So you can develop fairly sophisticated ones. So each one of these have detailed instructions. And the last one that we had also had some good examples for you to try. So by the way, all of these things are, meant for school kids. So there are a lot of, painting kind of applications. And if you really search for MIT App Inventor games, you will find many examples of that. And really what really different, I mean, it's only your imagination, really, right? So this, you can actually, if you think about something, you can go ahead and then develop. Are there any questions? If not, I'll just show you.
Yes.
Show them. Yeah.
So we are having some questions. Someone is asking how to compress an app once it is completed to a lower size of it. That means they're asking how to compress it if the size is bigger.
Well, basically, like once you have built your app, you can, basically save it as an APK. APK is a distributable file. It's a distributable file that you can use for Android phone. So basically, if you develop an app, you can save it as an APK file and then give it to a friend of yours. That's one way in which you can distribute your app. So typically, Android applications, like if you're developing one, that is the standard format. If you have an Android, Play Store account, I mean, you can't freely upload. Now, you normally, like when you want to download a app for your Android phone, you might use a Play Store, right? So if you want to put your app to this one, well, there is no free way of doing it. You need to have an account to do that. It's a $25 account. So if you know a friend who has an account, you can publish your game or application for others to use. If it is meant for a friend, then of course you can just basically send that person the APK. There is another way in which you can share your app. Like let's say you have a friend who is using also MIT App Inventor and you don't want to use an APK. Then what you can do is, like, you can go under My Projects, select the project that you want to send, and then there is a way in which you can save it as a, it's called a .ala file. But these files can only run in MIT App Inventor. You can't run it on a real phone. So basically, if you want a friend of yours to try what you have done, you can go to this. Or the other way is, of course, you can publish this. If you have developed something really nice, you can publish it for others. So there's an option where you can see here, publish in gallery. So you can make this publicly available for anyone to use without sharing it from the web. They can find it out and then they can figure out what you have done. So it's a bit like Scratch. If you have done it in Scratch, you know how to do that.
Okay,
Any other questions?
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Someone is asking, can you make a code that can translate different types of languages?
Yes, that's a very good question. And in fact, it's just one line of code, right? So that's the beauty of these things, because like you can just use this for anything. So let's actually go to that earlier demo that I was working on, workshop 1. So then the component that you have to use is this one. There is this component called translate. That's really language translation, right? So if you want to do language translation, you go to the code. It's just one line of code. So basically, this is the command here, call. So you have to provide the language to translate. What is the language to translate? And the text to translate. And it's simple as that, right? That's how you do language translation, just one command. You can do text to speech. You can actually do the other one also. Like let's say, I think the component is there. You have text to speech. Speech recognition is also there. So you speak to the phone like, Siri and I forget what you have in Android. So you can speak to the phone and to convert to text. So that component is also there. It's very good. Even the text to speech one is very good. I tried it with some Sinhala names. It works fairly well with Sinhala names as well. Now, those of you who want to go a bit further and then persist data, like normally what happens is like your data will be lost once you exit. You can use storage. So I'll just show you. The simplest one is TinyDB. TinyDB is the easiest way to store data. So you just, it's stored locally on your phone. So if you want to persist some data, you just use TinyDB, and it uses key value pairs. Key value pairs means like, basically like you ask it to remember something. So you can say like store value is this one. So if you want to store some value, you can give a tag. Tag is like, it can be some text. So like you can say remember. So this is a variable like that will persist. Think of it as a variable that will remain even when you quit the app. And you have to say, this is a tag and then what you want to store. You can store anything. It can be a variable. By the way, you have variables. Variables can be global variables. I think, yeah, you can have local variables and global variables. So if you want to have a global variable, you just set the name like, like maybe like, let's say you want to have a application where you want to share a variable across the screens. Then you need to have a global variable. So like you might have something called like total. And then here I want to say total is 0. So 0 is actually a mathematical number. So it's under maths. So I'll put that. Now this variable called total is now available across all the screens. Right? It's like a variable that you have. So you can actually use this variable and then store the value. Or like say if you want to store a specific value like a text value, you can go here and then save it. Like so maybe the name is like MIT AppInventor or something. So then this value is stored. So you can yeah, of course this is limited in what you can do. Like it's not really a relational database. Like you have a tag and a value, and you can like say for example store the high scores or something like that. But this can be any type of data number. It can be a list. You can have lists as well. I think one of you asked me like, so a list is basically you can make a list of multiple values. And there is this other thing that I want to show you, which is not there in Scratch. Like say, for example, if you want to do a calculation, like let's say we want to add some numbers and store it here. So like I have some numbers, let's say. So I can say, for example, this is the addition command. Where's the addition command? Yeah, this one is the addition command. So if I actually use the addition command, this is to add 2 numbers. Now, what if I want to add 4 numbers? Then what you do is like, normally you don't have this in Scratch. There is this little button here. You can see for some of these controls, you have this little blue colored button. So what you do is like, if you go under that, right now it only adds 2 numbers. So I can then maybe add another number, right? You can maybe drop it here. So that's adding 4. So if you want to add 4 numbers, this is a command that will add up 4 numbers, right? Or if you want 5 numbers, now you can add 5 numbers. So in Scratch, you don't have that, right? So then you can use it in a calculation like this, where you are trying to store the addition of these values. So these values, of course, you have to get. So if you have used Scratch, I think like you can assign the values to this one. So like this can be like you want to add maybe 20 to something else. So you have to continue that. But that is essentially, students, like what means like if this join is to combine 2 strings. So like if you want to take a string and then combine another string, you can use that. So this once again, like if you can use this to add multiple strings. Like so maybe like you want to have 3 things added together. But I think the rest is very intuitive. Like just figure out dictionaries are key value pairs. Like you search like student ID and then name, something like that is a key value pair. You have standard colors, variables. Like you can extend this by having your own functions. Like if you are really writing large programs, this is how you handle conditions. If you want to use repetition structures, control structures, you can use if statement. And once again, you can have different formats. Like if you want to have a nested if statement, you can easily convert this. So like, you can have if, else if, so you can, yeah, so you can actually build this up to be more complex, right? Okay, are there any other questions? I think we are running out of time as well. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
There's another question: how to add gyroscope for the app for games? Gyroscope.
Yeah. So if you want to do that, go under the sensors. So under sensors, you will have all kinds of things that you have. So this is the gyroscope sensor, right? So when you add the gyroscope, so all the sensors that are there in the phone are there. I mean, mind you, like what will usually happen is that your phone may not have some of these things. So how do you code it? Well, you go to blocks. Then for gyroscope, this is what you can do. You can check when the gyroscope changes. Then this is when you detect it, right? You can find the angular velocity, x direction, y direction. So like maybe like you want to develop an app, like when you change the you swing the phone, it behaves, controls a character, right? You can set the values as well to enable it and disable it. This is to enable it and disable it. So basically, you just look at this, and then these are the event operations, and these are like the light green ones are the values you retrieve. The dark green ones are the values that you change. So what you do is you look at these are logically stored. Like if you want to do maps, go under maps and use these components. Drawing animation, you use these. Storage is database. You can use some. I think this connectivity is like, say you want to send data like Bluetooth. You want to use Bluetooth and send some data, or you want to use the web to send something. You can do that. If you have Lego Mindstorms, I'm not sure whether you have Lego Mindstorms. Like Lego Mindstorm is basically like it's basically an environment where you have a robo kit, right? Lego based robots. Basically, it's like you have seen Lego sets, right? But this is actually a robo that you have, and you can code it. I mean, if you have a Lego Mindstorm set, you can control it using this. Anything else?
So they are asking for the reference links you showed them, and
so we will
recording
students
also
like
they are asking.
Yeah, so we will actually share the recording, students, and maybe like I'm not sure whether Vindhya is here, so we can actually share the slide deck immediately, and also like we will have a recording of this session, and also the future sessions also made available to you. So I think as an initial thing that what we can do is like, since you are interested about these things, we will quickly send the slide deck. I think we can do that. We can send this, and students like this has I only kind of scratched the surface, and just I wanted to invite the curiosity that you have. I want to tell you that I mean, developing mobile apps is so easy. You'll be really amazed how easy it is. And when you actually try it on a real phone, you'll be really astounded like how easy it is to do this, because when you change the code, automatically your app is updated, right? You don't have to deploy. You just you can see like whenever I change something, my code changes, right? This one changes. If it doesn't change, it means like it's stuck somewhere. So then of course you have to reconnect it. So it's it has now disconnected. So you can normally, like if you're using a real phone, you will use the AI companion. This is the QR code that you get. So if you have a physical phone, you what you do is you go and say AI companion, and then you touch the phone, and then you get the app running directly, right? But I was using an emulator. So if you're having an emulator, you have to install that piece of software, and this was the option that I used. So if you don't have an Android phone also, still you can do mobile application development. So please explore and try these things. There are lots of tutorials available. We'll share the slides. We want you, especially if you have played around with Scratch, I think you'll be really comfortable with this environment, and then you can try out things. And we'll also probably have a way in which we can answer your questions as well. Like in the website, we'll think of a way of for you to ask questions if you get stuck somewhere.